My name is Sarah, and the moment I realized my family had been pretending to love me happened on a Tuesday night in October. I was standing in the doorway of our childhood home with my suitcase half packed upstairs, listening to my brother Marcus scream that I was a leech, a burden, and the reason everyone in this house was miserable. But it wasn't his words that broke something inside me. It was the sound that came right after. Clapping. Slow, deliberate clapping from my mother, who stood in the kitchen doorway with her arms folded and a smile on her face like she'd been waiting years for someone to finally say it out loud. My father sat in his recliner, newspaper in hand, pretending the whole scene wasn't happening 3 feet away from him. That's when I understood. This wasn't a bad day or a heated argument. This was the truth they'd all been too polite to say until now. They didn't want me there. And the scariest part, I think I'd always known. I just spent 24 years convincing myself I was imagining it. If you want the full truth, hit like so this story reaches more people who have felt invisible in their own families. Because what happened after I walked out that door changed everything, and by the end of this story, the same people who clapped while I left were the ones begging me to come back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the house where I grew up believing I was part of a family, when really, I was just the understudy nobody planned to put on stage. I grew up in a split-level house in the suburbs of Cleveland, the kind of neighborhood where everyone mows their lawn on Saturday and waves at each other from driveways. From the outside, we looked perfect. My dad, Richard, worked in middle management at an insurance company. My mom, Linda, was a part-time school secretary who loved posting pictures of family dinners on Facebook with captions like "blessed" and "my whole world." My older brother, Marcus, was the star. Varsity football in high school, business degree from a state university, and a sales job that our parents talked about like he'd cured cancer. Then there was me, the accident baby who showed up 6 years after Marcus, the one nobody really planned for. My parents never said it directly, but you can feel these things in the way people talk around you instead of to you. I was always good at school, graduated with honors, got a partial scholarship to a nearby college for graphic design. I thought that would be enough to earn the same pride they poured into Marcus, but every achievement I brought home was met with a polite nod and a quick subject change back to whatever Marcus was doing. When he got promoted to regional sales lead, my parents threw him a party. When I landed my first paid design contract, my mom said that's nice and asked if I could help her set the table for dinner. I moved back home after college because rent in the city was impossible on a freelancer's income, and my parents said I could stay as long as I needed. What they didn't say was that I'd be expected to contribute more than Marcus ever did. I paid rent, $400 a month, which Marcus never paid during the 2 years he lived at home after graduation. I bought my own groceries, did my own laundry, and somehow still ended up cooking dinner 3 nights a week because my mom said she was tired and Marcus was too busy. He lived in the basement, rent-free, with a setup that looked like a tech store exploded. Giant monitor, gaming chair, a mini fridge my parents bought him as a birthday gift. Meanwhile, I was in my old childhood bedroom with a desk I'd built myself from IKEA and a window that didn't close all the way. Every time I brought up the imbalance, I was told I was being sensitive or that Marcus had different expenses because he was building his career. I was building a career too, but apparently, freelance design didn't count as real work in their eyes. The breaking point didn't happen all at once. It was more like a pressure valve that had been tightening for years finally gave out. It started 3 weeks before that Tuesday night when my mom asked me to lend Marcus $2,000. Not borrow, lend. He'd gotten himself into credit card trouble, missed a few payments, and needed cash to avoid collections. My mom stood in my doorway wringing her hands and saying he was stressed, that he just needed help getting back on track, and that family helps family. I'd saved that money from 6 months of freelance work, late nights editing logos and building websites for clients who paid in installments. It was supposed to go toward moving out, toward getting my own place where I didn't have to tiptoe around people who treated me like a guest in my own home. But my mom had this look on her face, the one she used when she wanted me to prove I was a good daughter, so I said yes. Marcus never thanked me. He took the money, nodded, and went back downstairs. 2 weeks later, I saw him unboxing a brand new laptop on the kitchen counter, brushed aluminum, top of the line, and when I asked him how he could afford it, he shrugged and said he got a bonus at work. I felt my chest tighten. "That's my money," I said quietly. He looked at me like I'd just asked him to solve a calculus problem. "What?" "Your bonus," I said, my voice sharper now. "You told Mom you were broke. You borrowed $2,000 from me for bills, and now you're buying a $1,500 laptop." He rolled his eyes. "It's called investing in yourself, Sarah. Maybe if you did that instead of whining all the time, you'd actually get somewhere." Before I could respond, my mom walked in, and immediately her tone shifted to defensive. "Marcus needed that equipment for work," she said. "You're not going to make him feel guilty for trying to advance his career, are you?" I stared at her. "He lied, Mom. He said he needed the money for debt, and now he's spending it on toys." She sighed the way people do when they're exhausted by your existence. "You always have to make everything a problem, don't you? He'll pay you back. Just give him time." That's when I realized time didn't matter. He was never going to pay me back, and they were never going to hold him accountable. The script had already been written. Marcus got to do whatever he wanted, and I got to swallow it and smile. That night, I made a decision. I started looking for apartments, something small, maybe with a roommate, anything to get out. I didn't tell anyone yet because I knew the moment I did, they'd find a way to talk me out of it or guilt me into staying longer. But the universe had other plans because 2 days later, everything exploded. It was a Tuesday evening, and I'd just gotten home from a meeting with a potential client downtown. The meeting had gone well, and I was actually feeling good for once, like maybe things were starting to turn around. I walked through the front door with my portfolio bag over my shoulder, ready to grab some dinner and work on a project that was due by Friday. But the second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The air felt heavy, tense, like everyone had been waiting for me to arrive so they could start something. My mom was in the kitchen, arms crossed, staring at me with this look I couldn't quite read. My dad was in his usual spot in the living room, but his newspaper was down, and he was watching me too. And Marcus was standing at the bottom of the stairs, blocking my path, his face already twisted into that expression he gets when he's about to start a fight. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Marcus didn't waste time. "You've been talking to Mom and Dad about me," he said, his voice low and accusatory. "Telling them I'm irresponsible with money, that I'm using them." I blinked, confused. "I didn't talk to them about you. I talked to Mom about the money you owe me. That's between us." He stepped closer, and I could smell the energy drink on his breath. "You're trying to make me look bad because you're jealous. You've always been jealous." "Of what?" I shot back, my patience already fraying. "Of you living rent-free in the basement while I pay bills. Of you spending my money on a laptop while I'm eating ramen so I can save up to leave." His face flushed red. "There it is," he shouted. "You think you're better than me because you went to some art school and make websites for nobodies. You're not better, Sarah. You're just bitter." My mom's voice cut in from the kitchen, sharp and cold. "That's enough, both of you." I turned to her, hoping for once she'd actually mediate instead of picking sides. But when I saw her face, I realized she wasn't there to help me. She was there to finish this. "Your brother is right," she said, walking toward us. "You've been stirring up problems ever since you moved back in. Always complaining, always keeping score, always making everyone feel like they owe you something." My mouth fell open. "I'm keeping score." "Mom, he borrowed $2,000 from me and spent it on electronics instead of paying his debt." "That's not keeping score. That's called lying." She waved her hand dismissively. "He's an adult. He doesn't owe you an explanation for how he spends his money." I felt something crack inside me. "It was my money," I said, my voice shaking now. "Money I earned. Money I saved. And you guilt-tripped me into giving it to him, and now you're acting like I'm the villain for being upset that he lied." My dad finally spoke up, his voice tired and flat. "Sarah, you're making this bigger than it needs to be. Marcus said he'll pay you back when he can. Just drop it. Just drop it." That was always the answer. Let it go. Don't make waves. Be the bigger person. I'd heard those words my entire life, and every single time it meant the same thing. Shut up and let Marcus do whatever he wants. Comment betrayed if you believe she deserved justice, because what came next proved that I wasn't the problem. They were. I looked at all three of them, my brother standing there like some kind of warrior who just defended his honor, my mom with her arms still folded like a judge who'd already made her ruling, and my dad staring at the floor because that's what he always did when things got uncomfortable. And something inside me just snapped. "You know what?" I said, my voice suddenly calm in a way that surprised even me. "I'm done." "Done with what?" Marcus sneered. "Done pretending this is a family," I replied. "Done pretending you care about me. Done lighting myself on fire to keep all of you warm. My mom's face hardened. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. We're trying to keep the peace here, and you're the only one making it impossible. I laughed, and it came out sharp and bitter. I'm making it impossible. I pay rent. I buy my own food. I cook dinners. I stay out of everyone's way. And the one time I ask for basic respect, I'm the problem. Marcus stepped even closer, and his voice dropped to something mean and personal. Maybe you are the problem, he said. Maybe that's why you don't have friends, why you're still single, why you're living in your childhood bedroom at 24 instead of making something of yourself. You're not a victim, Sarah. You're just a failure looking for someone to blame. The room went silent. My mom didn't correct him. My dad didn't tell him to stop. They just stood there, letting his words hang in the air like they'd been thinking the same thing all along, and were relieved someone finally said it. And that's when I heard it. Clapping, slow, deliberate, mocking clapping. My mom brought her hands together, 3 sharp claps that echoed through the living room, and she smiled. Finally, she said, someone said what we've all been thinking. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to stay standing. You're clapping, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. He just called me a failure, and you're clapping. She shrugged. If the truth hurts, maybe you should do something about it instead of playing the victim. My brother crossed his arms, looking smug. She's right. No one wants you here, Sarah. You've been dragging this family down for years. The only reason they let you stay is because they feel sorry for you. My dad shifted in his chair but said nothing. He didn't defend me. He didn't tell Marcus to stop. He just sat there, a silent witness to my humiliation, and somehow that hurt worse than anything Marcus had said. I looked at each of them one more time, memorizing their faces, the way my mom's smile didn't reach her eyes, the way Marcus stood there like he'd just won some kind of prize, the way my dad couldn't even meet my gaze. Okay, I said softly. Message received. Then I turned and walked upstairs to my room, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob. I locked the door behind me, leaned against it, and let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. They didn't want me there. My own family, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, had just made it clear that I was nothing but a burden they tolerated out of obligation. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I pulled my suitcase out from under the bed and started packing. Clothes, laptop, chargers, my portfolio, the little bit of cash I kept hidden in a shoebox. I worked quickly, methodically, like I was checking items off a list. Every zipper I closed felt like another tie being cut. Downstairs, I could hear them talking, laughing even like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just destroyed me. I zipped up my suitcase, slung my backpack over my shoulder, and took one last look at the room I'd grown up in. The walls were still covered with old posters and art prints I'd hung in high school. There were books on the shelf I'd never read again, stuffed animals from a childhood that felt like it belonged to someone else. None of it felt like mine anymore. I opened the door and walked downstairs. They were all in the kitchen now, my mom pouring herself a glass of wine, my dad scrolling through his phone, Marcus leaning against the counter like he owned the place. They looked up when I appeared with my suitcase, and for a split second, my mom's face flickered with something that might have been surprise. "Where are you going?" she asked, but her tone wasn't concerned. It was annoyed, like I was inconveniencing her. "I'm leaving," I said simply. "You made it very clear I'm not welcome here, so I'm going." My dad finally looked up. "Don't be ridiculous, Sarah. We're not kicking you out. You don't have to kick me out," I replied. "You already did. You just didn't have the guts to say it directly." Marcus smirked. "Good luck out there. Let us know how that works out for you." I didn't respond. I just walked past all of them, opened the front door, and stepped out into the cold October night. I loaded my suitcase into my car, climbed into the driver's seat, and sat there for a moment, staring at the house I'd called home for 24 years. No one came outside. No one knocked on my window. No one tried to stop me. I started the engine and drove away, and I didn't look back. I ended up at my friend Jenna's apartment across town. She opened the door in pajamas, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without asking questions. I slept on her couch that night, my phone face down on the coffee table, and for the first time in years, I felt something strange. Relief. The next morning, my phone exploded. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop on Jenna's coffee table. At first, I thought it was my alarm, but when I reached for it, the screen was lit up with notifications. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails, all from the same 3 people who had made it clear less than 12 hours ago that nobody wanted me around. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and started scrolling. The first messages were exactly what I expected. "This is childish, Sarah. Come home. You're being dramatic." We didn't mean it like that. But as I kept reading, the tone started to shift. "Sarah, we need to talk. This is serious. Call us back immediately." Then came the one that made my stomach drop. "It's about the house. We need your help. Something's happened. Type yes if you want to see all targets hit at once," because what I discovered next proved that the same people who threw me away suddenly remembered I existed the moment they needed something from me. I didn't call back right away. Instead, I made myself coffee in Jenna's tiny kitchen and tried to process what was happening. Jenna came out of her bedroom, saw me staring at my phone, and sat down across from me. "They're blowing up your phone, aren't they?" she asked. I nodded. "Apparently there's some kind of emergency, and now I'm suddenly important enough to contact." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to answer?" "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to block all of them and pretend they don't exist. But part of me needs to know what could possibly be so urgent that my mom is sending me 12 texts in a row. Jenna shrugged. "You don't owe them anything, but if you're curious, just call and listen. Don't commit to anything," so that's what I did. I called my mom back and she answered on the first ring. "Sarah, thank God," she said, her voice frantic in a way I'd never heard before. "Where are you? Are you coming home?" "I'm at a friend's place," I said flatly. "What's the emergency?" There was a pause, and I could hear her breathing on the other end, like she was trying to figure out how to spin whatever she was about to say. "It's your father's job," she finally said. "He got let go yesterday. They're downsizing his department, and he's officially unemployed as of last Friday." I sat there processing that information. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "But I don't understand why that's my emergency." "Because we can't afford the mortgage without his income," she snapped, her panic turning to irritation. "We've been living paycheck to paycheck for months, and now we're going to lose the house if we don't come up with 3 months of back payments by the end of next week." My chest tightened. 3 months? You've been behind for 3 months and didn't tell anyone. Your father didn't want to worry anyone," she said quickly. "He thought he could fix it. He's been applying to jobs, but nothing's come through yet, and now the bank is threatening foreclosure." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Mom, that's terrible. I really hope Dad finds something soon. But I still don't understand what this has to do with me." Her voice went quiet, and when she spoke again, it was in that tone she used when she wanted something. "We need to borrow money, Sarah, just temporarily, until your father gets back on his feet." I almost laughed. "You need to borrow money from me? The person you just kicked out? The person Marcus called a failure while you clapped?" There was a long silence. "We didn't kick you out," she said defensively. "You left on your own. Because you made it clear I wasn't wanted," I shot back. "And now, less than 24 hours later, you're asking me for money. How much?" $15,000, she said quietly. $15,000. I felt the air leave my lungs. That was nearly everything I'd saved over 2 years of freelancing, living cheap, skipping meals, taking on extra projects, saying no to trips and clothes and anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. That money was my escape fund, my security, my future. And she wanted me to hand it over to the people who had just told me I was dragging them down. "I can't do that," I said, my voice shaking. "Mom, that's everything I have." "I know, and we'll pay you back," she said quickly. "I promise. We just need time. The bank won't give us an extension, and if we lose the house, we'll have nowhere to go." "What about Marcus?" I asked. "He has a job. He just bought a $1,500 laptop with my money. Can't he help?" She hesitated. "Marcus is dealing with his own expenses right now. He can't access that kind of cash." "Of course he can't," I said bitterly, "because you'll never ask him to sacrifice anything. It's always me." "Sarah, please," she begged, and I could hear her voice cracking. "I know we hurt you. I know last night was awful. But we're family. Family helps each other. You said that exact same thing when you convinced me to give Marcus $2,000, I replied. "And he never paid me back. Why would this be any different?" "Because this time it's serious," she said. "This isn't about Marcus. This is about all of us losing everything." I sat there staring at Jenna's wall, my mind racing. Every instinct I had told me to say no, to protect myself, to let them face the consequences of their own choices. But there was still that small, desperate part of me that wanted to believe that if I helped them, they'd finally see my worth. That maybe saving them would be the thing that made them love me the way they loved Marcus. "I'll think about it," I finally said. "But I'm not promising anything. That's all I'm asking," she said, relief flooding her voice. "Just think about it, please." I hung up and sat there feeling numb. Jenna looked at me from across the table. "You're not actually considering this, are you?" she asked. "I don't know," I whispered. "Maybe if I help them, things will be different. Maybe they'll finally appreciate me." Jenna reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "Sarah, listen to me. People who love you don't wait until they need something to remember you exist. They threw you out. Your brother called you a failure. Your mom clapped. And now they want your money. That's not love. That's manipulation." I knew she was right. Deep down, I knew. But it's hard to let go of the fantasy that your family might actually change. Share this video so communities understand what was hiding, because what I decided to do next shocked everyone, including me. I didn't give them the money. Not right away. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I set conditions. I called my mom back 2 days later and told her I'd think about helping, but only if they agreed to 3 things. First, Marcus had to pay me back the $2,000 he owed me in full before I'd consider giving them anything else. Second, they had to sit down with me, all 3 of them, and have an honest conversation about the way they'd treated me. No deflecting, no excuses. And third, if I helped them, they'd sign a written agreement that this was a loan, not a gift, with a repayment plan and consequences if they defaulted. My mom went silent on the other end of the line. "You're really going to hold us hostage like this?" she finally said. "I'm protecting myself," I replied. "If you're serious about needing help and serious about us being family, then these terms shouldn't be a problem." She hung up without answering. For 3 days, I heard nothing. Then on the 4th day, I got a text from my dad. "We agree to your terms. Can we meet?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between Jenna's apartment and their house. My mom, my dad, and Marcus sat across from me in a booth, and I could see the resentment radiating off all of them. Marcus slid an envelope across the table. $2,000, he muttered. "Cash." I took it, counted it, and put it in my bag. Then I pulled out a notebook and a pen. "Now we talk," I said. For the next hour, I laid out everything. Every time they dismissed me, every time they'd chosen Marcus over me, every time they'd made me feel like I was the problem. My mom tried to interrupt several times, tried to explain it away as misunderstandings or stress, but I didn't let her. I kept going until I'd said everything I needed to say. When I finished, the table was silent. My dad looked uncomfortable. Marcus looked furious. My mom's eyes were red, but I couldn't tell if it was from guilt or frustration. "I'm sorry," my dad finally said. "I didn't realize how much we'd hurt you." My mom nodded slowly. "We should have done better." Marcus said nothing, but the look on his face told me he still thought I was overreacting. I pulled out a contract I'd drafted, a simple loan agreement for $15,000 with a repayment plan over 2 years. "If I do this," I said, "you sign this. And if you miss a payment, I'm done. No second chances." My dad signed first. Then my mom. Marcus glared at me but didn't say a word. I transferred the money that afternoon and they saved the house. For a while, they made payments. Small ones, but they came. My mom started texting me more, asking how I was doing, trying to rebuild something. My dad sent me job postings he thought I'd be interested in. Marcus still didn't apologize, but he stopped openly antagonizing me. If this shocked you, comment powerful below, because the family that clapped when I left became the family that owed me everything. And for the first time in my life, I held the power. I didn't move back in. I stayed with Jenna until I found my own place, a tiny studio apartment with a window that actually closed and a door that locked. I kept freelancing, built my portfolio, and eventually landed a full-time design position at a firm downtown. I see my parents occasionally now, but it's different. I'm different. I don't bend anymore. I don't shrink to make them comfortable. And when Marcus tried to ask me for money again 6 months later, I said no without hesitation. The best part. They didn't argue, because they finally understood that I wasn't the problem. I never was. I was just the only one brave enough to stop pretending everything was fine. So if you've ever been made to feel like you're not enough by the people who are supposed to love you most, know this. Walking away doesn't make you cruel. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is let people face the consequences of how they treated you. My family clapped when my brother pushed me out. But I'm the one who walked away with my dignity, my savings rebuilt, and a life I actually control. If you've ever had to choose yourself over keeping the peace, leave a comment telling me your story. Hit the like button if this resonated with you. And subscribe because I share real stories about real people finding their power when everyone counted them out. You're not alone. And you're not the problem. You're just finally brave enough to stop pretending you are.